Hi, I'm Mason, coming to you from one of the VIP ranges here at the gun store in Las Vegas. And you're watching Fired Up with Bob Irwin.
Thanks for tuning in to Fired Up. I'm your host for the show, Bob Irwin from the gun store here in Las Vegas, Nevada. This show is all about guns, related self-defense, and political issues involved with guns. I want to remind our viewers that our programs are now available on YouTube, our previous shows. If you hit YouTube and then Fired Up with Bob Irwin, you will see about 60 shows on there so far. We have two things to talk about on the panels today. The first is an interesting case out of Everett, Washington, where a homeowner who was armed happened to be able to disarm two serious felons who had committed a home invasion just a few minutes earlier. And the second panel, a little bit later, will deal with the CDC and a story out of USA Today that death rates from traffic accidents are now less than death rates from gun crimes or gunfire. Actually, gunfire kills more people in a couple of states, including my home state of Nevada, where we're broadcasting from. We'll get in some interesting things on that and how you make statistics say what you want. Right now, we're going to talk about this first really interesting story. We had two violent felons who picked a Everett, Washington backyard to hide in when they were driving away from a home invasion. And the results of this gun use turned out to be terrific. Great job.
Yeah, it seems, I guess, a couple of thugs decided that at 5:20 in the morning they'd knock on a room at the Days Inn, and when the male occupant opened the door, he had a shotgun displayed at his face, and it went downhill from there.
Yeah, they hit him in the back of the head with a pistol, apparently, and then they demanded money from the couple and pointed the shotgun at the woman in bed.
The woman gave him $200 from her purse, and they then took the keys from the male friend and fled. The male friend, because he knew him or knew of them and feared retaliation, did not want to cooperate with the police, but the woman said that she recognized or knew one of the men.
A short while later, a homeowner called 911 and said, somebody just parked an SUV in my backyard. Didn't stop there though, got his own firearm and held them at gunpoint for a brief period of time and managed to disarm the two guys.
Yeah, the drop the gun thing actually worked. They dropped the gun, their guns, and then suddenly both suspects broke and ran. They briefly attempted to steal a car from a nearby business there, and while they were trying to get the car started, they were caught by the Everett police officers that were responding from all over the place. Our guy, this homeowner, didn't know these guys had committed this violent home invasion. He just knew they were parked in his backyard, and he saw they had guns, so he went out there and yelled, "Drop the gun," and off it went. The guy's a hero for doing that. He had no idea the danger he was in.
But he made good decisions even after maybe going out could be debatable. It worked out in this instance. It could have gone really bad. He did not shoot at these two guys when they ran away. Right?
And that's really why I use this story, because he had no idea. He saw they were armed, and they ran like rabbits when they got a chance, and he was able to not shoot at them and just tell the police which direction he went, didn't follow them, et cetera, and it all came out perfectly. And
it's actually amazing. You talk to folks who get into shooting situations, especially those who shoot at somebody who's fled, and they almost invariably say the same thing. I knew I shouldn't, but I couldn't stop myself to a certain degree, or I thought I had to because, and it's a natural instinct to want to do something. So, and we don't know very much about this guy. For all we know, he's got a lot of training, and he was thinking this through. He could just be a guy who said, hey, I won the argument. I'll let it go at that. It's the cop's job now. I got an SUV, you know.
15 years ago here in Vegas, there was the guy who was a victim of a home invasion. He came home, and they tied him up in his bedroom, and he got loose. And of course, they weren't great burglars. They didn't find the 12-gauge shotgun in the bedroom closet. He killed the one in the house, which was a good shoot, and then the other guy ran out the driveway and out the garage, down the driveway and down the street. And as he was getting away, he got frustrated and he shot and killed him. And of course, he was arrested and
he was found guilty of manslaughter.
Yeah,
on
he was.
that,
He pled to.
My neighbor sat on a jury. She got called for jury duty on that. She goes, "We had no choice. The guy's running down the street and catches a 12-gauge in the back." So they found him guilty of manslaughter, and then the victim or the suspect's family also sued him for wrongful death. So financially, he's in rough shape.
And this guy doesn't know how lucky he was that they dropped their guns and then decided to run. Turns out one guy had 6 felony convictions. Wow. Previous. He was arrested on this one for robbery, assault, and unlawful possession of a firearm. The other guy was on parole and had 9 felony convictions. These are 2 professional bad guys.
Well, when you look at this, they came to a room in the Days Inn that wasn't a random room at the Days Inn. They knew this guy. So I wouldn't be surprised that the victim of that robbery hasn't got a long
very likely, or the
crime.
Woman does.
Yes.
One of the other, she identified one of the guys, but he had no idea who he was pointing the gun at. And fortunately for him, they chose to drop their guns. So, because that could have been a real disaster. We applaud the guy for doing that and not shooting them when they're running away. He handled it absolutely perfectly. And another armed homeowner saves the day. We're going to be back after a few messages and talk about our next panel. Don't go away.
Our panel discussion will continue right after this.
Hi, I'm Gwen coming to you from the gun store in Las Vegas, where we are teaching a CCW class. You're watching Fired Up with Bob Irwin.
And we are back here on Fired Up. The CDC came out with a study that was picked up by a couple of newspapers that now says in some states that we have more deaths by gunfire than we have deaths by traffic accidents. The idea is to make everybody afraid of guns, apparently, but that's not exactly what's happening. A firearm is used for one thing and a car is used for another, and compare what happens between the two is apples and oranges. It doesn't really happen that way. We are in the state of Nevada, we now have more gun deaths than we have car wreck deaths. But gun deaths have stayed about the same. Car wreck deaths have dropped dramatically over the last 5-6 years with all the new stuff in cars.
Well, certainly cars are getting safer each year with airbags and seatbelt laws and DUI arrests and computers that can stop the car if you get too close to another object. Traffic deaths are mostly accidents, and the numbers are down.
But shooting deaths are mostly on purpose. 40% of this study were suicides, and of course, every time that say a police officer uses deadly force in the line of duty and kills an armed robber, they're chalking that up as a statistic, as it's a gun death. It's a gun death, and that's just crazy.
Yeah, even when I love this, the criminal gangsters, 17-year-old child shoots another child. These are criminal gangs. These are gang members. Every time an armed citizen or armed victim kills a rapist or a robber, it's a gun death. Well, what about the life that was saved by the victim?
And that's exactly what this study misses. It misses the reason the shooting happened.
Exactly.
Yeah, a growing number of firearms are owned and carried. There's a recent study out that says there's as many as 11 million, perhaps more, because there's some states that don't issue carry permits. And so we don't know what the numbers in those states are. But there are 11 million citizens with CCWs in this country. And when they defend themselves, that is a good thing. It's not like a drunk getting in his car and taking out a group or himself or another car. We just had one here in Las Vegas, and they address suicides in cars. We just had a head-on collision here in the Las Vegas area that one news report suggested might have been a suicide. One guy intentionally drove into traffic. He killed another person at the same time. They're not going to list that as a homicide. They're going to list it as 2 vehicle fatalities, not what it was. And the same thing with guns. They need to take the suicides out, because suicides can happen with any tool. Take the guns away. A real motivated person who wants to kill themselves will find a way. Take out the law enforcement shootings, take out the CCW shootings, and what you're going to wind up with is about 9,000 murders a year with guns.
Versus there are 31,000 car wrecks that kill people.
Right.
But this apples and oranges study says as many people in Nevada are killed by guns as are killed by cars. But they're killed by guns on purpose. That's
Justifiable.
the difference.
They're
Yeah.
justifiable homicides.
And whether a suicide is justifiable, like Mark said, they jump off of buildings and the new bridge at
They're going to walk
the
out
dam
into
and so
traffic.
on. They walk. Well, then it's a traffic death. It gives this impression that guns are the problem, and it's not. The tool is not the problem. You look at the reason for the deaths, and it just drives me crazy. Like Tony was saying, that we had 3 people were killed in California by gunfire earlier this week from when we're filming this. One was a hostage woman that was hit by one side or the other. And the other 2 were bad guys that were shooting at police with their AK-47s. And the police killed them. But they're listed on these stats as gun deaths. Guns are bad. The police were shooting them because they were trying to kill other people. Those deaths stopped other deaths. They were life-saving events, not life-taking events.
A better comparison, in my mind, would be accidental firearms deaths. And any accidental firearms deaths are too many. But those numbers have been falling year over year. The number of people who are handling a firearm negligently and shoot themselves or somebody else and a death occurs is in the hundreds, not even close to the thousands. And that is more a corollary to cars.
Well, and it comes right back to, we had driver's education. We have in schools. We've had good gun education, good gun safety education. And that's, especially in states like we have here, where we have CCWs and anybody can have that. And as a CCW instructor myself, I that's a very big part of it, is the safety. And every class that I've ever taught, we stress safety on it. So as we get better with our safety, we have fewer deaths.
Accidental gun deaths are down more than accidental car deaths, even though we don't sell them airbags and computers that stop the gunfire. Comparing accidental deaths with guns and accidental deaths with cars, you would discover that cars are a lot more dangerous.
Well, shooting is one of the safest sports. And statistically, it's been proven that competitive shooting is probably one of the most safest sports that anyone could ever get into. Far safer than most contact sports, auto racing, everything. Shooting is one of the safest sports to get into.
The point of this segment, ladies and gentlemen, is to not let people fool you into thinking guns cause deaths. Guns cause death when they're being used to save lives. Cars, accidents are accidents, but guns are more often used, about 100 to 1, to defend people than they are to take lives. So don't let them make up the numbers and let you on the wrong side of what's really going on. It's apples and oranges they're looking at. I thank you for watching this. We're going to be back next week at the same time, same station. Please check us out again.
Hi, it's Emily, and I'm coming to you from the Shotgun Wedding Chapel here at the Gun Store in Las Vegas, where you can book your shotgun wedding ceremony, vow renewal, or commitment ceremony. You're watching Fired Up with Bob Irwin.
We are still here at the Crossroads Gun Show. I'm with Jerry Peterson with the Veterans of Foreign Wars, one of the many organizations that help veterans, and I'm interested in why you display at the gun show and what you're trying to gain here doing this.
I'm the District 5 commander of 7 posts here in the Las Vegas area, and what we do at the gun show is give out a lot of information to a lot of veterans, combat veterans, so they can get their entitlements through the VA, because a lot of these young men especially are not members of the VFW, and they do not know how to apply for their claims for their entitlements with the VA. And we want to make sure that everybody's registered with the VA, everybody gets their entitlements that they deserve, that they've worked for over these years, and especially our combat veterans.
How do people contact you to find that out?
Well, basically we have...
It appears to me that asking the VA for help is not working really well right now.
That is correct. That is correct. What we do is we have websites, of course, vfw.org. We have local websites. Specifically, there's 7 posts in the area. What we try to do with the people is get them, we have what we call service officers, okay, that will sit down with that veteran and help fill out the claim. We cannot fill the claim out for them, okay? They have to do it, they have to get the material. Just because of ethics, you know, we can't do it for them. But they come, we help them dot the I's, cross the T's, because a lot of times the wait is caused by an error.
Right. Yeah, the bureaucrats can't wait. You know, if they put something in the wrong box, they got to start over. So that's great. We have a lot of homeless veterans here also, and a lot of them that need help. And I'm really glad to see you guys are working for that. That's a big deal that we support those guys.
Now at the gun show, we'll certainly recruit someone that are eligible to join the VFW. The other thing we do is we usually have what we call buddy puppies, okay? And these are from World War I, a poem from a Canadian lieutenant that formed a poem about the red poppies of Flanders Field, okay? And what they've done, I'll give you a copy of this.
Well, I'm going to give you a donation for your red poppy, too. That'll get rid of all the jokes I'm going to hear about dusting off my wallet. So none of my employees are watching, hopefully.
Now, all the money that we collect, now we give away the poppies. They're free, but we do ask for a donation. And all these donations go to help the local veterans. You know, homeless, some of the veterans that are just hurting financially, that sort of thing. And that is called a relief fund, and that money can only be used for relief for veterans.
Yeah, that is great. I am really happy for the work you do.
Oh, well, appreciate
Thanks
it.
for doing the interview. I appreciate you guys. Hopefully we'll see you at the next gun show.
Okay, thank you.
Good luck.
Hi, I'm Greg, and welcome to the Gun Store in Las Vegas. Here at the Gun Store, we're here to help you, where we have a huge selection of firearms. When you're in Las Vegas, stop by and see us. Guns, politics, and self-defense. That's Fired Up with Bob Irwin.
Hi, this is Tony with the Gun Store in Las Vegas. Thanks for watching Fired Up with Bob. We're still here at Wiki Up, Arizona for the Big Sandy machine gun shoot, and we got kind of a rare and unique gun right here. This is a Model 13 Smith & Wesson H&K. Sorry about that. 13 H&K. Basically, it's an HK93, which is the 223 version. However, they developed it into a quick change barrel. And they really didn't sell too well with the military. It was more of a concept type piece. And they went with another platform. But this one here is full semi 223 caliber and a nice Leopold scope on it. And we're going to take a couple of shots to see how it goes.
You're watching Fired Up with Bob Irwin, coming to you from the Gun Store in Las Vegas.